Hi everyone. I wanted to do another video here on using the library's search engine to find sources. The topic of this video is going to be how to narrow your results. So I put in the term pandemic, which gave me close to 27,500 results, which is way too many, of course. But there's a number of things that you can do in order to limit down your results, and I'm going to walk you through that. First of all, one of the things that you can do is limit it to scholarly journals. If I click that button, it's going to get rid of anything that isn't a scholarly journal. And that got rid of a few thousand sources for us. A scholarly journal, if you're not familiar, is something that is published by professional scholars, usually for other professional scholars. So they tend to be longer, they tend to be more complicated, they tend to be very formal, very rigorous, very research based. And in order for something to be scholarly, it usually has to be what is called peer reviewed. And what that is when you publish something in an academic journal, that article, before it can be published, will be sent to a handful of other academics, other scholars. They will read over that source and they will make sure that it is up to their professional standards before it can be published. So if something hasn't gone through that peer review process, then it isn't scholarly. And really all that means, I'm not requiring you to use scholarly sources. You're welcome to use any credible source that you might find, but just know that a scholarly source is going to be very very detail and data heavy. Usually, it's going to be very reliable information. So that's one way you can limit your results. I'm going to uncheck that box here for a minute. Some other things that you can do. If you're interested in writing specifically about like the coronavirus, you're not going to want sources that were published in 1933. You're going to want things that are published much sooner than that. Or let's say maybe you're not, maybe you're just kind of interested in pandemics in general. You may still want to have much more recent sources. So actually, let's set this to 2010. And what that's going to do, this is giving us sources that were published between 2010 and 2020. And you'll also notice that got rid of a whole bunch of sources for us. So that's another way that you can limit your sources. If we go down here to source types, you can select the type of source that you want to find. So academic journals, that's the same thing as a scholarly journal. So you can select that. If you want it specifically from a magazine, you can do that. Newspapers. You're not going to want to use book reviews. In fact, I don't want you to use those. Because what a book review is, as the title suggests, that is someone who has read the book and then they are providing their thoughts on the book. And so when you're doing research, you typically want to go as close to the source as you can. In a book review, you're a couple steps removed from the information itself. So instead of reading a book review, you would want to go straight to the book itself. So don't use book reviews. But you may want to look at newspapers. So let's do that. And that dropped us down to 886 results. So that's getting a lot better. And then let's try some other things here. The last thing that you can do, here's an option, subject. This lets you select specifically what topics you want to find search results on. So if you're interested in pandemics in the United States, you would select that box. If you're interested in how Donald Trump plays into the current pandemic, you could select that. Let's look at some other things here. Trying to see if there's anything else that I think might be interesting. Not seeing much, so let's go with those for now, and let's update. And that has us down to 17. So as a reminder, what we're looking at here, we're looking at sources from 2010 to 2020, only from newspapers, and we've specified that we were interested in the United States and Donald Trump. And so that has made our results a lot more specific, and there's much less for you to have to look through. So that's another thing that I would recommend doing when you're using the library's search engine is play around with these things on the side here, and that'll help you probably feel less overwhelmed. If you just go in and try to search through everything on your own, there's just too much. So definitely use these tools to limit your results.